there are three truisms that RealStew has been built on, okay? And these are, there's strength in numbers, and communication is a natural phenomenon. We all communicate. The third truism, which is core to our whole philosophy as well, that we based the whole RealStew on, is that financially, if you can emancipate every single person in the world financially, all the disenfranchised people in the world, you actually have a power base that can change everything. So that was a lofty, idealistic idea, but we are actually achieving that. Now, to best demonstrate RealStew, the first challenge was to how are we going to get everybody to start combining their energies to start working from the same perspective. So we applied a bit of the technology, and we went and built, first it was an simple FTP site, and slowly from there we started to build other applications. And over a period of a couple of years, we've ended up with a phenomena where we now have just over 350,000 people around the world that are actively interacting every day on RealStew on many topics. It could be through chat, it could be through e-commerce, it could be through using QR codes. It doesn't really matter, but we all have a conversation. The conversation is not limited just to chat, as I say. You engage, you interact. That is a form of a conversation, and from that we're gathering a lot of data. Now what we've gone and done over a period of time is establish a network. Now this is now, I've just taken a snapshot of where all our members are around the world. We've actually identified 201 countries. I know what three words identified 147. We found a few more, I'm afraid. So right now we've got, those where our members are all around the world. We're in 201 countries. We're processing, in the last 24 hours, we processed just 1.6 million conversations or interactions between the members. In the last 30 days, 118 million. Okay, so a bit slower today, but as time builds up during the course of the day, the number builds. So the first thing we needed to do was to actually put everybody together into some central network, which we've done. The next thing we needed to do was to create reasons why people would choose to use our platform to have that conversation rather than any other. And that was the case of building up an application library. So we've gone and built a library where you could trade shares in a company, for example. We've got our own little private sort of shared trading platform. We can actually create this gaming platform where you can play games, interact with people. You can blog. We've got about 450 blogs, not big in number, but by themselves it does attract a certain audience. We released an e-commerce platform to do some basic trade. And that was about 3 weeks ago now. We've got about 290 stores have been created already. But the point of the matter is we're slowly building this up. But what is truly significant about RealStew is as much as we've got 350-odd thousand members now, RealStew does not employ a single person. That's dynamic. Even myself and our technical team, we aren't employed. We actually share the ticket. We share the revenue, okay? So what we've gone and done, and the best way to demonstrate it, is every time a transaction takes place on RealStew that has caused RealStew to earn money, let me just close that, results in RealStew earning money, we share it with all our members through an algorithm that we've created where we've identified the relationship between a member or person using the platform in relationship to their social graph. And what it does is, as we do transactions, I'll give you an idea, we're currently doing transactions in 65 currencies. We're processing in the region of about 45,000 transactions a month at the moment. And as a transaction takes place, there's a transaction about to sort of come through in India. As the transaction takes place, that money that we receive as a result of giving the service that people prepare to pay for, we distribute it with 42 people through an algorithm that identifies the social graph between the members as and when they use the platform. And there it is. The transaction has just taken place. Obviously, that was only in New Zealand, and the split occurred. There's a few more coming through. Oh, there's another one that's just taken place. Oh, another one in New Zealand. Now, the reason why I say New Zealand, we started in New Zealand some time ago, so that's obviously, there's a high propensity of our members. There's one that's obviously just taken place in India, and that has resulted in us generating revenue, which has now been shared. And so it goes on. And as I say, these transactions, to give you an idea of the scale of it, in the month of last month alone, And by the way, because we are a collaborative model where everything is transparent and we share everything, we even show our turnover. Okay, so there's nothing that should not be known. Yep, we processed £59,983.21 worth of transactions in 65 different currencies, of which we distributed £43,187.87 to our members. And there's a whole bunch there to our technical team. And the management team, we call ourselves the Knights Trove. There's a bunch of us around the round table. And we shared with us the princely sum of £8,539.10. Okay. Yeah, we don't have 3 meals a day at the moment, but we're hoping one day we will. So RealStew has gone and created an environment where a bunch of people working together collectively are able to have this conversation, able to engage and interact across a whole range of platforms. But by distributing this money, as we have done, what we've also done is actually resolved one of the biggest challenges that any software as a service company has. And as we know, and with RealStew, that's what RealStew is. We are a software as a service company. As we know, the problem with software as a service company is that I've yet to come across one that actually makes a profit. Even Salesforce.com has been operating for, 15 years now. Their turnover is $3 billion a year. They have never made a profit in the 15 years. Xero, the accounting company, fantastic company, New Zealand-based, last year made a loss of $80 million, but they're growing. They're a software as a service company. And the principal reason why software as a service companies are unable to get them out profitably is that they spend more money than their total revenue, obviously, and they're having to fund that with capital calls all the time to their partners. So what we've gone and done, we said, why don't we change that whole metric around? Because we have a collective group of people around the world who are actively engaging, interacting in the platform, and are sharing the revenue that comes from providing value-added services. We've now, from our base of 350,000 members, we have just over 10,000 of those members now that are actively promoting RealStew to their friends and colleagues. We have a further 600 members that have taken the level further up, where they've created a management team, a support system that we've coded in. So we've actually created the only software as a service company that is actually making a profit. Now, our financial year end finished now on the 31st of March, just a few days ago, and we made our total turnover was £318,000 for the year, and RealStew made a profit of £7,861. And we're going to make a more profit this year. But the point of the matter is, we've gone and created a mechanism that self-perpetuates itself. Now, what's actually starting to happen as more and more and more is, as our members start doing the most natural thing possible, and that's engaging, they are finding that they are starting to receive the share of distributed revenues every month. But because our revenues are subscription-based and recurring, what they're finding is that there's predictability of this money coming through to them every month. Now, that raises an interesting phenomenon. 50% of the people in the world do not have bank accounts. Yet 80% of the people in the world have access, or will soon have access, to the internet via mobile phones, where they can have a conversation, where they can engage and interact. So what we are finding is happening in this money that we're distributing through 6 degrees of separation and through this phenomena of doing transactions, a recurring portion or consistent amount of that money is coming through to people that have never, ever had a bank account before. But all they did was had a conversation using the RealStew platform or using their mobile phone. And what they're finding is happening is that previously they never had access to a bank account simply because they never had a reliable form of income. Now they do have a reliable form of income. It's subscription-based income based on 6 degrees of separation. And we have got a number of members around the world who are starting to realize, by doing the most natural thing as possible, and that's having a conversation, they can access a recurring portion of income. So we are turning on its head the whole question of how social platforms should be engaging and interacting. You know, it's free to go and use Facebook. It's free to use WhatsApp. Fantastic service, and they've got a great technical team behind it. Okay, it's free to use a lot of RealStew services as well. And even the people that are now starting to receive this portion of the distributed revenue have not bought any services from RealStew, but they have chosen to use the RealStew platform as their form of communication, and they are now receiving a recurring portion of that income. They are now becoming part of the bankable portion of the economy. If you look at it this way, people say to me, well, what do you predict is going to happen 1, 2, 3 years from now? I talk about 895 sleeps because that's our target. In 895 sleeps, we want to have 1 billion people using the RealStew platform for whatever reason. Okay? So those 1 billion people are going to find that they are doing the most natural thing as possible, having a conversation and receiving a predictable form of income. And that changes the dynamics of everything. And I say to people, turn around and look at the tsunami of humanity that we are awakening. And I can give countless examples of people that we are affecting around the world already. And as a result of this, the UK Trade and Industry saw what we were doing in New Zealand, and they sponsored my family, wife, and I to move to the UK for the specific reason that we are, I believe, solving the conundrum of how do you financially emancipate those people that were previously disenfranchised financially. And it's quite simple. Allow them to have their conversation like they normally do, but because their conversation is linked through a social graph that interacts with everybody else, they are now starting to receive the value or the corporate value that's currently being shared by these massive corporate platforms at the moment. It changes the dynamics of everything. The next thing we're going to do, our first stage was to prove the model, validate it, prove that we can make money, and we've proven that, okay? To actually go and get scale. So we didn't really worry too much about the user interface. Our second phase is now to actually look at the new look. So there are 9,000 shareholders in RealStew, by the way. We went to all of our members actually started to grow, and they each put in $100. We created a capital base, okay? My wife and I, Mandy and I, we invested money. We've got 2.1% of the shares based on our capital we contributed. But the bulk of the shares in RealStew belongs to a trust, which is ultimately all the members of RealStew, current and future. So we have a sort of a hybrid sort of model based on doing good. Now, we're applying our capital now to release the new look. The next phase of the new look is going to address the questions of obviously a better user interface, and I believe the traction and our numbers are going to increase further. We're building an ecosystem. We're finding that as more and more people are starting to use RealStew, this ecosystem, we're introducing into our ecosystem people that even Amazon, eBay, and these guys can't touch, because they can only sell to those people that have a bank account. We can sell to people who actually have access to money because of 6 degrees of separation. They don't have to have the money in their bank account, but they have access to the money in a bank account that they can access now via our RealStew platform. So we turn the whole thing on its head. So we can actually offer our services to everybody out there who just is communicating, not only to somebody who's got a debit or credit card. So that changes the metrics, and that's our ecosystem. It's much bigger. We also look at client-centric approach to third-party developers. Because we've now have got 10,000 active people out there that are actively promoting RealStew every day, and incidentally, that number is currently growing at 30% a month compound, or 30 to 35% a month compound. We started to implement the actual rolling out of our what we call independent business operators network about 6 months ago. And our prediction is that we will have 200,000 people by December this year and 5 million by December next year who are actively promoting third-party applications on behalf of third parties, because there's a vested interest for them to actually promote it and refer their platform. So if anybody's out there has got an application and they want us to help them to market it, come speak to us, because we are now creating a client-centric approach or a developer-centric approach, okay, to marketing applications. Okay. We come to us as a third-party developer, even if there's a lot of challenger banks at the moment that have just opened up, looking to acquire more clients. Come talk to us, because we have a way of touching the access to those people who have access to money through the RealStew platform, and we'll be able to assist to be able to roll out any application. So we are adding third-party applications to our library. And that's every time we do that, we bring another ecosystem of people into the platform, which has been actively promoted by the existing ecosystem, and it's growing. The next thing we're doing is we're building up our media part. It's one of the conditions under which, when we start sharing money with members, we say the condition precedent to that is that you must allow us to tell you each day how much money you've got. It's quite amazing. When we did a testing, we sent 17,000 emails out over a month to a whole bunch of members, and we had an 85% open rate every day. Okay? Because people do want to know how much money they've got the night before. It's one of those things, the first thing we even looked at, it was interesting, when we sent them out, within almost within a few minutes, they were opening it. It almost like woke up 4 o'clock in the morning to see how much the money while they were sleeping. Okay, so we have a very high thing. So the condition precedent is you must let us know how much money you've got. And therefore, we have the ability to access them through our Real News Gazette. We also bring out our own newsletter, our own newspaper, very much on the basis of Huffington Post type layout. We have a whole lot of journalists around the world that are working with us, and we're going to be bringing this out. So what you find that we're doing is not only have we created this captive audience of people that are really intrigued about being enrolled with RealStew because they are now being financially rewarded by having a conversation. They suddenly are financially empowered and they can access so many things. We now also have the eyeballs. They want to see what's going on. And what is interesting, a lot of people that are starting to receive the money, when they started to use RealStew, they didn't know anything about the money. It wasn't the condition. It was maybe responding to a user group or using an FTP site. And because of the social graph, we suddenly say to them, by the way, you have some money. And so a lot of people didn't know about it. But when they do know about it, the whole dynamics changes because people are starting to share the distributed wealth of the world without knowing actually how they got it. But when they start realizing, gee, imagine if I knew what was going on, how could that change? And that's when they start becoming one of our 10,000 and growing active, what you call independent business operators. So we've gone and taken in summary, we've gone and taken the point that a group of people working together on a common purpose, collectively, doing what comes naturally, and that's having a conversation, are able to monetize their eyeballs through their social graph and actually give back to them the very corporate wealth that's currently being retained by the Facebooks, the Googles, etc. of this world. So we are creating a new era type community platform. I know that the task of a billion members by December 2018 seems like a tall order. People say to me, but how's that possible? Because they've got thousands and thousands of programmers, billions in the bank. I say, yes, no, that's right. It may sound, I'll finish off. It may sound sort of arrogant of me to suggest that, but I would say I'm more confident that we're going to achieve it. And maybe when you knew all the facts, more informed, you probably would respond that maybe we have the chance of pulling this off. And thank you very much. And that's RealStew. Yeah.